All right, people. So again, I'm on 0. This thing is empty. So what I like to do is start it off with dirt, with some kind of compost. The way you do this is you can dig up some dirt in your yard, put it at the bottom here, or you can do like I do, plants that were grown in pots that were sitting directly on the ground. I use those as my base. Or you could, if you don't have anything, this is your first year, you could essentially buy some, some compost, the cheapest compost you can get, right? And start it off at the bottom here. The reason why I use the ones that I use so this, I grew, what did I grow in here? I grew basil in here last year, right? So the basil doesn't come back, but I grew this and it was sitting directly on the ground. So I know that it's going to be worms in here. So I want to start my compost off with something that has worms in it. There's also, because it was sitting directly on the ground, there's going to be some beneficial microbes that help start your process off. Okay. So I just take a couple. I'll take the weeds out. If it grew any weeds or if any leaves or anything like that, I'll just take that out and I'll use that as my base, right? And I may not pour all of it in there just yet, right? And that's my base that I use, right? And you want a good base because if you got worms in here, you need the worms to be able to crawl through, right? And if you just start off with just leaves, just paper, there's nowhere for the worms to really, dig around in. So that's why that's another reason why I like to fill my bottom up, right? Now, once you have it like this, then you just go for what you know. You know what I mean? That old dirty lettuce that I had, you just start tossing stuff in all over, right? I take some of that, got some old cabbage, tossing everything in, some stalks. Ladies, Mother's Day come, anniversary time, all that. He done gave you some flowers. Let them things go. Just throw them all the way in. I keep a compost bin in the house. This was sitting outside for a long time because I was trying to not do this until I made this video. So you can see all the juice that's been formed in there. Plus some rainwater has gotten in here. So it's a lot wetter than it normally is supposed to be. Tossing all that crap in there. This is a good thing to have in your house. One thing I do, and you can see here, you see that newspaper? What I would do is rip up newspaper, put it at the bottom, then start putting your, scraps inside. Once you fill it up, come out and immediately drop it. Again, mine does not, it normally does not get this wet. This was sitting out here outside for 2 weeks, right? And I got holes in the top of this, so rainwater has gotten in there and all kinds of things has gotten in those 2 weeks. But I got in here, pineapple, apples, all kinds of stuff is in there, right? And you just start going for what you know. Throwing eggs and all that good stuff in. So, got some eggs. I don't use a lot of eggs anymore. I put half of my eggs in, half I do another process. I'll talk to you guys about that at another time. Start putting stuff in like that. These noodles that I was telling you guys, we didn't even use them. They're still in the container and they totally liquefied. And this stuff is funky, y'all. And you guys want to try that in your house? Absolutely not. I don't recommend doing that in your house. Okay, once I do a nice little layer, oh, here's another thing I do. So on the front of my house, we use flowers, and I change them out like every season. So these were mums that I put in last year. These were in the front of the house. They died. I take them and I put them and I just sit them on the ground, right? So again, worms can get all up in here, and you take those out. You know, you might have to break them off a little bit. Right? And then you dump the stuff in there. Once I dump, you start seeing all kinds of stuff running in there. All that stuff helps. One of the reasons why it's good to use the plants and stuff, right? Because when you do, they use potting soil. So that potting soil has, if you can see this, it has perlite in it already. Let me lift this up a little bit. It already has perlite in there. So you're now adding perlite to your compost by using this process here, by reusing your potted plants that you purchase. Now, all the nutrients are pretty much gone from a potted plant soil after the season is over. So you're not using it really for the nutritional value, but that perlite is very good for your soil, of course. It's good for aeration and all that other good stuff. And you're going to be able to use, you know, the flower plants in there, right? Now, for browns, I like to use leaves, obviously, but at certain times of the year, I don't have leaves. So my favorite thing to use is simply shredded paper. Shredded paper. So you add your shredded paper in. What do? You go through your bills. Now, again, I told you in the last video, when you're shredding up your paper, you want the regular paper. It can have color to it. So you'll see like these blues and yellows, but don't use that thick cardstock, really, really thick stuff. That's not what you want to use. You don't want to use that. Now, this stuff is very, very dry, right? And so right on top of that, I will start adding more of my wet product, the greens, right? And then I would add a little bit more of my soil. And then, you know, I have another flower pot that I will empty in, and then I will put a little bit more of the shredded in here. And then after that, to get things started, again, I'm gonna check the weather. If it's gonna rain, I'll leave it alone. Well, it depends on how much rain it looks like we're getting. I'll leave it alone. If it's not enough rain, it looks like it's gonna be coming, then I'm going to water this and water it really good so that all this dry stuff gets super wet. And then put your lid on it, and then in 3 days I'll come and turn it, right? Because I need to get this process started, and then continue to come out and just throw in scraps, or then throw in more shredded paper. And basically, guys, that's it. If you can do this, you can do it. Hopefully it answers these two videos, the previous video and this video should answer all the questions that you have for getting started on composting your own self for your own black gold. All right, guys, peace out.